crime is dead.
12. That's how many documentaries about Ted Bundy I managed to find. Around 22 hours investigating the same person doing the same crimes to the same people while using the same title format. Ted Bundy, a bunch of murderous search term words. John Wayne Gacy, clown mixed with evil buzzwords. Jeffrey Dahmer, is what he had for dinner. Dahmer is another one of the big named killers who has also had a bunch of films portray him. There are at least 7 feature films depicting this one kinky man, so it'd be quite the understatement to say this genre is oversaturated to the point where you can refer to Jeffrey Dahmer as just kinky since his crimes no longer shock you. But how did we get here? How did true crime die, and who killed it? My name is Perry, and I'm a currently unsuccessful YouTuber. Can you tell me when true crime died? I don't think anyone knows exactly when it happened, but I can tell you how. You see, true crime documentaries are incredibly easy to make, and so that's why the genre is oversaturated and fuller than a frat house toilet. All you need to do is find a couple of nice filming locations, set up a microphone, grab a couple of cameras or 2 if you're feeling fancy, and then light it the same way as everything else where you get this triangle on your face. Set up a few of these interviews, that way you...
What's crazy too is that you don't even have to find cases that have not been covered. You can just use the same fucking true crime cases that everyone has every podcast and documentary and fictionalized show has done, and people will watch it.
You can intersperse clips of these throughout the documentary, and bam! You've just shot most of your feature-length film in a couple of hours. What's more is you can grab literally anybody involved in the story. You might think it's best to get experts bringing their knowledge, but then you have to make sure what they are saying is reputable. You can't just have someone diagnosing real people without making sure what they are saying is legit. This is a proper documentary, not a Shane Dawson one. To avoid this, get stupid people who are witnesses, then let them say whatever the hell they want. The documentary Devil on Trial is about a murderer who was supposedly possessed by the devil. It's mostly full of nonsense since it was crammed with interviews of relatives who look as though they came out of a Trump's America caricature.
That boy was talking like the devil, cussing and swearing, unlike any 12-year-old I've ever seen. I just prayed to God, please save this boy, and I saw a demon fly out of him and into this other fella who wound up murdering his landlord. You know, those people you give your money to for simply owning a bit of land.
The point of this documentary was to then have others come in later to counter all of these dumb claims, but it really got me thinking. All true crime documentaries basically do this, since they always have survivors who tell their tales that have likely been embellished a little over the 20+ years they've been doing interviews. Something that always gets brought up with any killer is how people saw the evil in their eyes, which, you know, little bit late now. Why couldn't you have brought that up during their killing spree? This would be the point in the
or the other thing that always kills me, no pun intended, is when they'll be like, the neighbor said, we didn't suspect nothing. He was just Joe living next door. He kept to himself. He was quiet. Like, we never would have suspected that he was murdering broads. And it's like, okay, yeah, I hope that if you did think that you were living next door to a serial killer, that you might have told somebody. You know, you didn't see next door neighbor Joe hauling garbage bags, suspicious looking garbage bags in the middle of the night, and broads going in the house but not coming out, digging in the backyard, you know?
Documentary where we cut to old footage, since that changes the style, stopping us staring into space.
Can't wait to be brutally murdered so YouTubers and spooky music and trauma porn my
videos are a must-have in any of these, since it's a reminder to the audience that all of this is real. But instead of making up our own opinions on the killer, we just think about how their eyes are evil, since a random person just told us they are. It's basically the Kuleshov effect, where the emotion of one shot is affected by the shot before and after it. Old man is staring at something, reveal with the next cut that it's a woman, turning him into a creep. Now old man is staring at something, reveal a mother and child, turning him into a compassionate man or a pedo. The way you shoot one of these documentaries isn't the only thing that's been done for you, since most of the journalism has already covered everything anybody needs to know. How many people were killed? Who were they? How did they die? Who was the killer? Oh right, it's all here in the newspapers. Local journalists were probably sick of writing stories about potholes or something equally dull, so a triple homicide is a breath of fresh air. These stories being easy to cover not only adds to the oversaturation of the genre, but also means that you never really get anything new from them. Tickled. It's one of the best documentaries I've watched, and also my favourite to recommend to people purely for the confusion on their face when I say it's about competitive tickling. This one has a story that evolves, that's constantly changing, meaning you never really know where you're going to end up. Starts out as this funny little thing that slowly spirals into something a little bit more sinister.
Will actually was just telling me about this the other day. Has anybody seen this? I haven't seen it yet, but it's crazy. It's not what you think it is.
But most true crime follows the same story beats. We've got the dead or missing but presumed dead because they're in a true crime doc. This leads to an investigation to find out what happened to them.
Tickled.
We found the killer and now they're in jail. It's a compelling story, but it's the same story every time. Only difference is the characters involved.
I'm just so emotional right now.
I don't know if it's on YouTube
took
or
away
anything.
someone so special to the world, and that is what is keeping the audience so engaged in this story.
Dear Zachary is one of those engaging narratives that becomes so intensely emotional to the point where I did multiple of those ugly cries that forced my body to make a sound like I've just been punched in the solar plexus.
True crime stories are still stories, so they need to follow similar rules to fiction. We still need to be engaged, which often can't be done with just the crime alone. If Dear Zachary didn't have the emotion from all the characters involved in the story, then it would have just been about death, which is basically part of the news cycle every day. A lot of documentaries don't have this character aspect and are merely trying to succeed off the story alone, which is simply a result of trying to make a documentary out of everything that happens. Turn the cameras off, please.
96 hours. This was a countdown that slowly ticked away
Oh my
to
God,
mark
the
the
dollop
death
is
of
so
5
good.
people during one of the most widely watched
I haven't heard
news
that episode.
spectacles ever. This was of course the Titan submarine disaster from June 2023. Nobody had contact with the sub, nobody knew where it was, nobody knew how they were going to be rescued. The only thing we knew was how much oxygen they had left. This timer kept counting down the days, then the hours.
This was maybe one of the craziest things that I've been a part of on stream, where the news of the submersible disappearing, I remember I covered it when that news broke. I was like, oh my God, you guys, there's this submersible and it's missing. And then like the whole world was tuned in, of course, to the mystery of where the submersible is. And it was like real time that we were getting more and more information. Remember we learned about the PlayStation control or the Xbox remote, the Xbox controller, and just all the details that were emerging. It was 2023. Yeah, it was last year. The banging sounds, crazy. It was a Logitech controller. Yeah.
Then the minutes until finally a documentary was released. I mean, talk about insensitive.
They had that documentary 2 seconds.
Hours, that's their deadline to churn out some
2
TV.
seconds
Instead of
after
seeing
the
that as a quite
submersible was
literal deadline. I haven't been able to find any
discovered
footage of this
to have
program,
officially
but I've been
exploded.
looking around and it seems as though it's just a bunch of talks with experts. I mean, obviously it was terrible. It only took 4 days to make, so not really a shocker. Nobody cared about archiving this. Channel 5 then made another documentary less than a year later, which was a bit more conventional. Interviews with experts, old footage, news reports, all the staples of the genre. It is free to watch, yet barely anyone has seen it since it only has 49 ratings on IMDb as of writing this, which is 10 times less than Dharma versus Gacy.
Maybe there's something I could do to return the favor.
If true crime documentaries aren't covering the stories that the public don't care about, then they're instead taking the interesting mysteries and stretching them out like the skin on a psychopath's lampshade. There's a clip of a woman in an elevator acting as though there's someone out to get her, which spawned a bunch of conspiracy theories, and then this documentary on Netflix. It takes 4 hours to tell us what happened because it keeps going off into weird tangents, like this one dude who explains the hotel she was staying is a place he goes to pound women, and not in the way you'd expect from a true crime. This is a problem that occurs in every subgenre of documentaries, like in Pepsi Where's My Jet? I don't need an almost Oppenheimer's length of time for what can be summed up in a few paragraphs, so why the hell are you wasting my life on this planet by interviewing someone's mum? What is the conclusion to all of this? Documentaries were the lifeblood of true crime, but now they all look the same using identical stylistic choices, are full of dumb people with uninformed opinions, are incredibly lazy bringing nothing new to the table, focus on boring stories that have already been told more times than fairy tales, and are often as bloated as a corpse discarded in a swamp. These are all signs of true crime's death, and while there are still great documentaries that come out here and there, it's becoming harder to find them. The oversaturation of the market has meant the genre is flooded with all of these poor imitations that you can't even find those diamonds in the rough. When you can't even find the ones worth watching, you stop looking, and that's what makes true crime dead.
I mean, this is streaming overall, right? It was about quantity and not quality, and it's been happening for years now that there is just simply too much available. And so with true crime, it used to be that like, oh, there was, there were a couple shows, ones that everybody was watching and everybody was talking about. And then the true crime genre just exploded. Absolutely exploded. And I mean, same with all mediums that do true crime, podcasts, YouTube channels, etc. And I mean, it's a problem that has plagued just the streaming industry in general. It's a content market. Yeah. I mean, content has just been a nonstop machine.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the True_Crime 4987 podcast, where we talk about true crimes, a bit like all those other podcasts that manage to snag all the good names. Our first topic that I want to talk about is, are there too many people talking about true crime? I came across this TEDx speech in which this woman claims that by the end of 2021, she found almost 5,000 podcasts, which is like a small stadium full of boring people yammering too long about the same tragedies. Oh, cool, we already have 7,000 listeners. Oh yeah. Maybe we have too many people doing the same thing, and this is the first killer. The documentaries are already massively oversaturated, but they are also competing with people using the first microphone that they found on Amazon, recording in cheap studios, or in this case, under the stairs. The benefit of such a simple layout means you can cover crimes pretty much instantly, and so whenever anything interesting happens, you'll have a dozen podcasts dissecting the stories.
Commander Kai, thank you for the 2 months. Is this somebody else? True crime docs on streaming services analogous to reality shows during the 2003 writer's strike. It's cheap and quick to produce content that becomes immediately popular. Well, what I will say is, like reality shows, they are, as he just said, like you can quickly cover a true crime story. So they production wise, I can see how it's similar to reality shows. And also, though, the popularity of true crime having that like real element to it, just like reality shows. True crime didn't come about, though, because of true crime didn't proliferate because of a strike, though, is what I'll say is a difference there.
Then when the documentary finally comes out, true crime fans will feel less need to watch it since they've already heard most of the details. Like, why would I watch Murdow Murders, A Southern Scandal if I've been listening to one of the hundreds of podcasts that release an episode, or in one case, 93 episodes? What more information could I really get that wasn't covered already? Oh, nice! We just got sponsored by a tampon company! If you're having a heavy flow like Ted Bundy disemboweled you, well then you need to try Tampoon, the only brand that can soak up enough blood to clean a crime scene. Blood was spraying everywhere. The masked man was slashing and slicing and swinging his arm back and forwards, cutting up his victim back and forwards.
True crime did spike during COVID when everyone... Oh, absolutely. Yeah. COVID was very good for people in the true crime genre.
Smell of blood rushed up his nose and then to the back of his throat, where he tasted the blood and could smell its thick bloodiness. I'm starting to lose you a bit here, aren't I? The next killer comes in the form of bad storytelling. The best documentaries understand you need a compelling narrative to keep people interested. You need the pacing, revealing certain information at the right time. You need the emotion from those involved. You need the raising of stakes as the story progresses. You need to effectively tell the tale. This is something you tend to miss out on with a lot of YouTube true crime storytellers because, frankly, they suck at writing. Or what's more likely is they just don't spend long enough to polish it up, since they've got their weekly schedule to pump out another 30-minute long video. These channels get by on the crimes alone. Video after video of nothing but the crimes told in the most basic way possible. This is why all of the true crime story channels tend to feel identical to each other, which isn't helped by the fact most of them are narrated by white guys. Just white guys talking about the most depressing and horrifying acts of depravity, filling your mind with all these thoughts of horrors.
I actually feel like it's mostly women who are doing true crime content via like podcasts and YouTube. I don't know what like the actual numbers are on that, but white women are the queen of true crime because white women are the consumers of true crime. Like demographically, white women are very drawn to the true crime genre, and whether they're consuming or they are, they're making true crime content. What else was I going to say about true crime? Oh, the other thing that happened is that in the beginning, a lot of true crime YouTubers or podcasts that got popular were just reading from the work of journalists. Like they were just taking thoroughly researched and well-written articles by journalists and reading them out loud on their podcast or on their YouTube video. And then they got in trouble for it. Like this is something that happened with Crime Junkie. And now Crime Junkie makes a shit ton of money that they have an entire team who now can write the scripts and write the stories, but yes, with no citations as well. So that was certainly a big problem in the beginning of when true crime had exploded, is the plagiarism. I mean, plagiarism still happens, but once big true crime content producers got called out for plagiarizing, then they had to not plagiarize or not be as obvious with the plagiarizing.
For our sponsor, Black Void Whiskey has the highest volume of alcohol that's legally allowed before it becomes paint thinner. Buy it today using my special promo code DECAPITATION. 8.2% off your order.
Plagiarism was the true crime.
You'll never guess what the suspect did next. He scratched his groin, which is a sign of disrespect to the officer leading the investigation.
I can't tell if it's an ad or if it's just part of the video.
Him bragging about what he has done, which means he is displaying signs of psychopathy. Except it isn't though, and you'll see this quite a lot on YouTube. Because there doesn't seem to be any regulators on this site, that means you can get away with spouting any pseudoscience that you want, which usually comes in the form of body language analysis. But nobody's really paying attention to that because nobody really pays attention to these videos. Look how boring this is. It's just a shot of people talking on CCTV. And that's why most people...
I will say the other thing about true crime is the ad reads are so jarring. So jarring. They'll be like, and the next day, her body was found. Today's sponsor is brought to you by HelloFresh. When I can't decide what I want to make on a Monday night, I go to HelloFresh and it makes it easy for me. Or it'll be like, Joe opened the door and he saw what looked like a shadow, but it turned out that shadow was the dead body of Marilyn. Today's sponsor is brought to you by BetterHelp, which is so shitty, by the way. It's actually crazy how much true crime content now focuses so much on mental health. You got to fix your mental health. Like, everyone talking about mental health. I mean, mental health, the capitalizing on mental health is huge all around, but especially in the true crime genre, and they're all fucking sponsored by BetterHelp. Yeah.
To watch these videos in the background while they do other stuff that's more interesting. This is the next killer on the list, as these videos aren't very engaging. They're incredibly long with not much happening, so you can comfortably put them on in the background while you do other stuff. When these sorts of videos
I promise you I will never do a sponsor with BetterHelp.
That means the majority of this genre is not worth your full attention. So no wonder it's dead. But you know what isn't dead? The intruder who just entered your house. Stop just standing there like a lemon. Shoot him now. Buy a gun today to protect yourself from murderers and use the discount code I just shot my drunk housemate who was climbing through the window because he couldn't find his keys to get 20% off your first order. And that was the moment the killer cut up her entire family, blended them into pulp, and then used their bodies to create her very own wicked makeup, which was the inspiration for today's look. Oh wait, I forgot a part that's really important. Oh, I can't go back now. I've already done my makeup, which is one of the focal points to these videos. Who cares? That's what you get when you listen to true crime from just some random person who's doing other things. This is killer number 4. Why would you ever want to learn about true crime from someone who cares so little about the cases they are covering, they don't even pay full attention to what they are saying? Is this a trustworthy source? How diligent do you really think their fact-finding was? Especially when you consider channels that do these videos will post daily. I'm not here to call out any channels for plagiarism. I'm not doing a H-bomber guy no matter how much you think I remind you of him because I'm a slightly effeminate English man. I'm not saying there's plagiarism because I think these creators are somehow too lazy to do that.
I'm just going to say something. Maybe it's a hot take. Maybe it's not a hot take. I know that there are makeup true crime YouTubers who you can say are doing good because they donate money and they draw attention to cases that don't get a lot of attention, blah, blah. I just still think that the nature of applying makeup, like doing makeup tutorials or makeup videos while talking about a true crime case is really weird. I've never thought that it was something that that at its core was like, oh, that's really cool. I think it's gross. I do. I've always been weirded out by makeup true crime. That's just my personal feelings. Might be a hot take. I don't think it is. I thought that was a joke. No, it's not a joke. No, it's like a popular form of true crime content. Yeah, because to me, like doing makeup and putting on makeup and talking true crime feels like gossiping with the gals type of thing. And I just think at its core, it's not an all appropriate way to discuss cases that happen, things that happen to real people, and people's whose lives were affected in a heinous way, and be like putting on my eyeshadow talking about it.
It's like listening to a TikTok-obsessed 14-year-old telling a story they kind of remember. You're watching a makeup artist rattling off basic facts about murders you'd find in a Wikipedia summary, interspersed with meaningless rambles, and like they go on and on.
He basically had to put a disclaimer it wasn't directed at a particular channel because it's a popular format.
Don't you just hate it when people do that? Like, I have this one friend who does that, and it's so annoying. It's also annoying when people don't buy my amazing merch. You can buy one of these t-shirts for just £60, which helps support me and the channel. Just click the link in the description to buy a piece of clothing that you'll be too embarrassed to wear outside.
He's nailing the parody. Oh, the mukbang true crime.
Once he was finished cutting up all those kids with an axe, he began eating their flesh from the bone, starting with the legs. The legs are the best places to start if you're feeling really gluttonous, as there's so much more meat on the bone. And obviously, kids don't have that much meat on them anyway.
It's like if you or Hassan were applying makeup while talking about Gaza. Okay, I am laughing, thinking with that image of Hassan applying makeup, talking about Gaza. Just Hassan applying makeup doing anything.
What am I doing? This is killer number 5.
There's no way there's mukbang true crime. Oh yes, there is.
Go onto YouTube and all you get are the salacious titles that tease the crime, which you know would be so much more explicit if it wasn't for YouTube's restrictions on what words you're allowed to say. If you've ever binged true crime content, then chances are you've had a thought like this while watching a video. One murder? Is that all? The videos focus solely on the gory details, and so that's all you start to care about, and that's the part that needs to be one-upped every time. A pedo with only one victim? That's child's play. This is what true crime has become. Murder. If you enjoy the content on this channel, then sign up to my Patreon, where you'll get exclusive access to the uncensored crime scene photos. True crime has been murdered by an oversaturated market stuffed to the brim with schoolboy levels of bad storytelling. Uninspired filmmaking designed for people not to watch, unreliable sources from a narrator that doesn't care, and desensitization to the crimes that have become the selling point to this exploitative medium. Documentaries were the lifeblood of true crime, and they can't compete with the cheap and easy to produce content that comes out on YouTube. True crime is dead, but also more popular than ever. True crime has become something new. Its overwhelming popularity has created this shift from high-production, well-researched cinematic exposés into quick, simple content.
Can we get a tasteful Hassan and Caroline makeup gossip stream? Has Hassan ever done drag? Not that I think I can apply drag makeup, but they need to. Oh, I guess they did drag at shit camp, right? Yes. I would love Will and Hassan and whoever else to do full drag. Like, God damn it. It would be awesome. Shit, fucker. I didn't even touch it. It would be really awesome to get actual drag, like professional drag makeup artists, and have them do full drag application. We could rent out the Abbey.
We've gone from fine dining at a Michelin star restaurant to a
Will
microwave
did drag when he
meal
dressed
from
as
Lidl.
Catgirl. True.
Demand was too high for filmmakers to keep up, and so to satisfy the audience, we've had to change the way they experience the format, which I want to spend a little bit of time dissecting. There's another side of the desensitization, that being the focus on the killers. Back in the day, we only had a handful of murderers who were notorious enough for their names to stick in our memory for when we want to say an edgy joke. But now you could aggressively wake up a true crime fan in the middle of the night and they'd still be able to rattle off a couple dozen serial killers. We've turned the worst of us in society into celebrities, which probably gives people incentives to become killers, but also the knock-on effect from this is the dehumanization of victims. When you focus on the killer's acts, the people involved just become
Mukbang
statistics.
true crime, I think,
oh,
is
no,
one of the
that's
worst
not
things
Jane
that's
Smith,
ever
the loving
existed.
wife and mother who had goals and ambitions. No, that's victim number 8, the one whose intestines were pulled out and used as bunting for the murderous fun-filled jamboree. What's worse is that we have commercialised the exploitation of victim stories. Documentaries have always been something filmmakers want to profit from, but they're usually respectful with the source material.
It does feel like now, if you are the victim of a heinous crime, just know that a shit ton of the most annoying people in existence are going to use the murder of you or whatever happened to you and make money off of it.
Often having victims tell their own stories. That's a relic in today's media landscape, where you don't need permission to show a living person's name, face, and where they live, then explain in graphic detail the horrible things that happened to them, which they likely want to forget. You don't even need permission to speculate on which innocent person you want to incriminate right before you go to an advert for something stupid. Every news story covering horrible events just becomes an opportunity to make some money. I can't help but imagine a conversation like this taking place in one of the studios that makes this stuff. Have you seen the news? A little girl has gone missing, last seen in a playground near the woods. Oh, damn. She's been found alive and well. Oh. You've also got to wonder what it does to us, consuming hours upon hours of these concentrated doses of morbid curiosity. I used to be able to comfortably walk around at night time on my own, headphones on and easy to murder. Can't do that anymore. I'm currently on edge right now. Any sounds I hear, my brain inputs images of a butcher knife wielding maniac wearing a skin suit made from all my loved ones. Why? I'm a guy living in the English countryside. There's nothing to be scared of out here. The only weirdo walking around at this time is me. But I still can't stop thinking about the worst case scenario. It's hard to say definitively what the effect of watching this stuff is, since it varies from person to person. But most of the studies seem to report increased paranoia and fear. You can only imagine this new version of the format that only delves into the grisly parts would cause an even bigger blow to mental health. This is a virtually unregulated industry that only pays attention to some of the bad words you say, which even that can get sidestepped, like how creators say unalived instead of died. True crime content might only be causing paranoia now, but like I said, it's changing. And if there is a problem with what it becomes, nobody will be stepping in to put a stop to it. So if we aren't careful with what media we consume, then true crime might not be the only thing that is unalived. Yes! One take. And it is now starting to rain, so I'm going to have to run home. Okay. Oh, this is...
This guy is awesome. We watched his baby reindeer video. I don't want to say like I discovered him, but I feel like I kind of discovered this guy. No, most of the time when I finally find a YouTuber, he's like, he or she, they super popular, right? Y'all will be like, where have you been? Oh, this person's amazing. They've been around for 10 years. And this guy, when I first watched one of his videos, oh my God, I'm not subscribed. Oh my God. Oh gosh. Jeez. Okay. So I discovered him still. Please don't think that I didn't. But anyway, he's one of those YouTubers that the last time I watched his video, he had 15,000 subscribers. I'm like, how do I have more subscribers than this guy? Now he's got 22.5, which is great. But I think he's really good. I think his videos are really good. I think he's funny. I think he's smart. So that being said, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Okay. subscribe to this guy who I discovered on YouTube, and then also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I always forget to advertise my YouTube channel. Please follow my YouTube